All right, everybody. Today I get to welcome Jeff Davis, CEO of Coalmarch, the marketing tech leader for pest control and lawn care businesses. He has over 2 decades of scaling operations and driving growth. Jeff is a expert at leveraging data, customer insight, and deep industry expertise to helping home service businesses grow smarter. Jeff,
Appreciate that intro, Chris. Thanks for having me. It's been fun catching up on your podcast, learning a little bit more. I look forward to this conversation. Thanks for having me.
absolutely, it's my pleasure. So we chatted a little bit about the origin story and the background of the business and your carve out story. Would you mind, for those that don't understand what a carve out is and how you all kind of got started, would you mind walking through that?
It's an interesting question because I wasn't really sure. I thought I knew what a carve out was until we got into the carve out, and then we get 6 months into it, and then it's been a totally different experience. Yeah, happy to share the experience. It's been pretty wild. So Coalmarch has been around for about 20 years, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. It kind of had its first evolution of that growing to $1 million, $2 million in traditional agency work, pretty much take various industry clients doing project work, building, and eventually actually sold a couple different times, but it ended up in the hands of an industry leader in the business, pest control world. He reformulated it in what he was looking to do and what he wanted for his business. He actually built some side applications and stuff, which was pretty cool. He tailored everything to pest control and then the ancillary markets being lawn and landscape. So they all kind of play together in the same home services world and built this very scalable business, good to scalable, probably to about $5 billion. And that was really the first build of the company itself. It then sold into some private equity-backed SaaS ventures that were in the pest and the green markets. So Real Green Systems based out of Detroit, outside of Detroit. And then you had WorkWave that acquired them out of New Jersey. So we spent a few years there in their worlds and through other acquisitions, merged a bunch of different digital agencies. So I think the Coalmarch of today is really the acquisition of 3 different digital agencies in 3 different markets. We were sitting, inside of the big WorkWave company with the PE, and the financial pressures were pretty tight. And we had bigger visions for what we wanted to do and had a good talk with the CEO and said, "Hey, cut us free. Let me go get some investors together. Let's build this business. We'll take it out." And, it worked. They allowed us to go that way, but we had to build a full company. So it sounds great. You've got the business services operation in this big SaaS company, and fantastic, right? And then you pull it out, and all of a sudden you're like, oops, we don't have finance. We don't have sales. We don't have HR. We don't have any. We're not a company. We're not a business. We're a services group. So we've spent the past 5 months, 6 months kind of building everything around that. We've got a strategic partner in WorkWave now and carving out. So we've got access to they're really the number one, number two player in the industry for their CRM. We've got integrated access to them, and we've got a fully scalable process. And now it's just time to rebuild for the next level. It's time to 10x. So that's where we are as a business.
Wow, it's pretty insane story and journey. What is the first department that you build right after the carve out? And how did you guys land on that?
So what we should have or what we did, those are two, the learning lessons. So let's talk learning lessons. If you're going to carve out, I would say getting the financial stability underneath is really the biggest one. We had a great operation. We've got a hugely tenured office. In fact, that's the reason I fell in love with the group. I've only been around this group for about 3 years, 4 years now. So I don't have the history, but I think our COO's over 10 years. Our VP layer underneath have been about 15. And most of them started their career. So the team itself was stable, was built, everything was great. But when you roll out from another business, not having that financial layer, even with angel investors kind of doing the peeling out, it's really important to make sure that you've got good financial footing. One, to make sure that you've got the right corporate structure when you pull out for the next transactions. You've got to make sure that you've got your capital accounts set up correctly. There's a lot of little nuances that go into the business, and we kind of threw that into a fractional CFO and our COO, and shouldn't have done that. That's where we should have gone. But 5 months in, we've learned our lesson, and we're putting all that together. Where we went was the revenue side of the business. So we had been stagnant in WorkWave because there really wasn't a lot of investment in systems or processes. We were just kind of viewed as a profit center and give us your money, and then no real resources left to grow us. So we heavily invested in getting back out into the market. We had to rebuild our reputation. We had to reposition ourselves as the market leader. And we have 350 clients. on our tech platform that are sitting out there today. So we weren't small, not a small group, but we really had to reestablish ourselves. So we built from the ground up using HubSpot, true corporate marketing, demand gen type of approach that I learned from the SaaS world. So we're trying to apply that mechanism from day one. I personally, I may be a little bit biased, but I think it's world class. I think what we're building right now is going to set the stage for the next year. And the next stage of that is to really get through our data set. So, you walk in with 100,000 leads and you're like, that's great. But really, there are only 5,000 of our targets out there that we really want. So we've got too big of a universe. Now we've got to get to that smaller universe and start targeting.
And you mentioned before we jumped on, but also just now, Jeff, building this with a SaaS revenue model. That was where you had a lot of previous experience. I'm curious if you can shed some light on that and why you chose to go that route and like how it's turned out.
Sure. So, well, we're at the beginning, so I'm not going to judge our results just yet. We're still just got the infrastructure. It takes a few months to put these things together and get the engines wheeling. There's a great book out there. I forgot who wrote it, but it's called Predictive Revenue. It's really on the guys that built Salesforce.com and how they built it. And it's the traditional demand gen, lead gen, warming to BDR to sales rep mechanism. The reason it works for us is our sales market and our sales motion and our market target are very different. So we are very targeted in niche markets, pest control and lawn care. Maybe there's some fall off from that. There's some Christmas decorations and some landscaping that kind of come into it, but we're focused very narrow in these markets. And we even know within that segment where we work with very high growth companies that are usually around 500 to $1 million and want to go to 20. And that is our market. As a business, we focus on their growth. We don't focus on what we do and offer as a service. We own their number, their growth number. And when they come in, they're like, hey, we want to get to X in the next few years. And we take that number, we move it out. So our messaging in our market is very direct. From a SaaS sales methodology, once you understand your market, you've got your target, you start building messaging directly to that. And it can come in a lot of different ways, right? There's texting today, there's email marketing, there's direct sales, there's methodologies, there's getting out here and talking on podcasts, getting into industry publications, trade shows. But what's important is that you're building that content mechanism at the very top, building up activities, lead scoring, and now you're passing off to your sales mechanism. And if you get good at it, I'm going to say we're good yet, but if you get good, it becomes predictable. I can put as much activity at the top and I know my conversion through the process, right? So how many activities from a BDR does it to get to opportunities? How many opportunities in the AE's hands does it take to get to a close? And you can predict that revenue down through. That's the holy grail. So we're still trying to prove out that model, but I've made it work in the SaaS world. And since we're so niche and so targeted, it will apply in this market too.
I find with agency owners, there's two types of agency owners. There's the agency owner that's very, sales focused and they want to do the sales and, they're not sure that anybody can do sales better than them. And that's how they focus on growing the agency. And then you have on the other side of the equation, the agency owner that's like trying to offload sales as fast as possible and build a team and like they don't want anything to do with it. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like those two dynamics.
It's interesting. I've been caught up in a couple books. We're implementing EOS right now. So we're doing traction and EOS. So, I've got to step into that visionary role, right? I've got to get out of the daily operations and it tells me to get out of it. As you can probably tell, my passion's in sales and I like to be out there in front. So it just depends. I kind of couple that with another book I've been reading, one of the Dan Sullivan books, 10X is greater than 2X. 10X is easier than 2X, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Brilliant book, flows right into EOS. And then you look at that and you're like, no, you really have to step up. But what can get you to 10X? So the way that personally look at the approaches is you've got to build a sales mechanism and you got to trust them and let them go. You're not going to be, no one's going to replace you if you're the lead salesperson. If you're the guy that built the machine and you want to be the best representing, that's true. But you need to train them, build that mechanism, let them go, and then check in on them with the metrics. At the same time, those most critical clients, those channel partners, the enterprise, the PE groups, the ones that we work with, the really big ones that are acquiring, that are big chunks of very profitable revenue, you got to be close to those. So in one way, you're giving it up. You're giving away the mechanism at the bottom, but at the same time, you're making sure that you're pulling into the strategic accounts, the strategic clients that are out there. And I'm willing to jump on any client call, retention calls, customer service calls, any client out front, anyone in the pipeline, anyone that we want to talk to that needs to, that to me is all strategic. So I'm going to learn as much for the organization and be able to come back in and direct it as I can. It doesn't mean I'm going to be the one doing the cold calls. It doesn't mean I'm going to be the one always doing the presentations. If I have to do that, then I haven't prepped the team correctly.
I love that. And the strategy is what's going to get you the 10x.
Sure. That's it. That's it. That is the strategy. You have to be willing to step out. I'll be honest, it's hard for me. Like I've had to look inward in this process and understand, the first 6 months is building scaffolding. We got a product organization that we're trying to make own more of our own tech stack and develop it. I'm from the SaaS world. I've spent a lot of time in technology and builds. We're going to build out our own platform. We've already got the core of it. So I'm trying not to micromanage that process. I had to get the right talent into the teams. Financial analysis. I'm looking toward, what the next stage of the business is to grow, to really 10x. You may have to take on investment at some point in time, and I've got to set the stage for that. That's my job, is to set the stage. So it's not necessarily to go out there and work with that $1,000 client, but there are times where you need to learn and be close to the market, but it can't be my responsibility, because then I'm not looking at the things that are really going to get us to that next level where we really want to.
So I'm curious if, because your guys' origin story is so different, you're a carve out, right? So then what does the vision look like? What is, Coalmarch at the next level? What do you guys
So
build?
we've got, COS, right? So we've got our 2 stages. We've got our 3-year plan and we've got our 5-year plan. Our ultimate goal is to be the number 1 provider for our 2 markets. We don't need to go anywhere else. These are big industries. You've got bugs in your house. I'm sure you do. You're in Honolulu, right? You got bugs in your house. Definitely have them in mind. Oh,
We had a pest control here.
oh,
A month
absolutely.
ago.
Absolutely. So, it's not going away. I love our passion is working with entrepreneurs that want to grow their businesses. It's fantastic. Like working in these markets, you're working with individuals. I talked to an individual yesterday. Client has built up a $2 million pest control business. He's not huge. He's not really looking to exit on his business, but he did it. He graduated high school at 17 and built this business on his own. Like he spent his entire life doing it. And when you meet with these owners and they come in and they're like, hey, I want to get to 10 million. I'm looking to get into the private equity and to exit these businesses. That becomes our mission too. So, for us, our next evolution is this is our market. We own it. We're the only ones out there talking about owning the growth numbers of our clients. We're the only ones that take that on personally. Everyone else is moving to platform first and people behind. We're keeping people first and building platform behind them. That's our goal right now. We know that they need strategic advice, not just software, to run their business. So that's kind of our push. That gets us to 2.0. That gets us to a place where we can reformulate our processes, get us to the point of the profitability where we need to be. That gets us to, $14, $15 million as a business. And then from there, it's about really turning the business into more of a technology play, making services about 50% of our business. And, AI is kind of having a little bit of an impact on our industry right now, just a little bit, just a little bit. You got to pounce on it or you're going to get eaten up. It's one of the two. So we're jumping on that too. So those are the end goals right now, but I'm a big believer in niche markets. At one point in time was known as the labor expert for janitorial industry, if you can believe that. I love these markets when you get into them and you really get to dig down into the nuts and bolts and what makes them move. It makes work fun because I was working on behalf of the labor of the little guys. I mean, the janitors out there. And I'm going out there and working with these entrepreneurs and we're trying to build their businesses and see their success. I can't tell you how many guys I know that built lawn companies that are flying their own private jets around. They're all over the place. It's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. You would not put, lawn company and like private jet in the same bucket, but
it's a fun group. And I've learned a ton from them. And, to be part of their journey it's honoring, to actually be there and be part of it and be like, hey, you guys were part of this. You brought us along. One of our owners is named Joe Cusick. He actually built the company Real Green, and Real Green is, couldn't quote their market share, but we're now for building company. They created a lot of those companies from software, from a system that they built. And it's fun to talk to him and see how he works with clients and what he was willing to do. Now, he was also he's a pilot. He would jump into his plane and fly 4 states away overnight just to meet with a client. I can't quite do that. But, they're fun industries to work with. It's fun to work with the entrepreneurs, and it's fun to see their spirit too and the way they operate.
I love that. Well, a couple thoughts. We can go in a lot of different directions here, but you mentioned AI, Jeff. I'm curious, how are you all leveraging AI, not just internally, but with your clients? Because you guys are also consulting them. And I'm assuming that they're coming to you for advice on how to implement AI inside their businesses.
Most of our conversations are strictly around marketing, but I've had the opportunity to go to a few events recently. One was called Academy. It's a 4-day boot camp into the pest control industry. It's a networking event. They put you on teams. I was on Team Pink. I think we came in last. You compete for days. I did synchronized swimming. You sit through, I don't even know how to describe it. It is embarrassing and amazing all at the same time. But you go in there and you start learning about what's going on. So from that seat, I learned a lot about what our clients are doing out there. A lot of them are starting to put in agents to do things like payroll automation and take over functions in their business. The ones that are ahead of the curve are absolutely doing it. Others are just trying to learn how to use basic LLM tools every day, right? So I've got Gemini, I'm paying for it. How do I use it? And we'll give them tips and tricks for the most part on how we use it in our business. One of my easiest tricks that I do right now is every Google Meet that I'm on, I've got Gemini automatically recording it. I drop it into a folder, and at the end of the week, I go back and say, ask Gemini, give me a rundown of everything that happened this week. Tell me anything I promised to do for the week. Give me any deliverables from everyone else that we discussed in the meetings. And I get perfect report. It's like an assistant was taking notes. Small little hits. The bigger side of AI that we're working on right now in our business, we really see two sides to this. There's the product side. So there is, how does our platform, we call it Sprout, how does our platform start to take on and basically take away a lot of the tasks that our SEO and SEM folks are doing, our website builds? How do we start to productize that and make that automatic? The other side of it, though, it's really where the golden egg is right now. And it's, how do you get your team using the tools effectively? So we have Claude, we have OpenAI, we have Gemini, we have all these different tools in our business, and no one uses them uniformly. They like to say I'm a power user on this, and I think I am. I use AI pretty well. But how do you train your team in a services organization to carve 4 hours out of their day, like I have in my days, by leveraging these platforms? And that's the low hanging fruit for AI. It's really not the product side. The product side, yeah, it's going to come. It's going to eventually, the platforms and technology are going to take away a lot of the functions that we do today. But for right now, how do I make the team that I have 2, 3, 4, 5 times more productive, just like we do with devs and writing code? How can I get my SEM team working more effectively in their strategies and how we go tackle, I don't know, termites in Sacramento? Right? Like, how do we get down to that level using AI? And I think that's the low hanging fruit.
Got it. Got it. And so are you running like team workshops, company workshops? I'm sure you guys are sharing strategies. Do you have a library of like, here's how we do this? Like, what does that look like in actual implementation?
It's in process right now. So what we decided to do was step away and to bring in somebody that's an expert in it, bring in an operations expert to look at it from the outside. So we've got probably like a lot of your podcasters I've listened to, you've got some great ones, and a lot of them have done the same thing to scale up to where you can handle 300, 400, 500 clients. You have to have very rigid processes in place, right? To be able to move across. So one of the first things, people love those processes. They built them, they get attached to them. Maybe you got 60 steps in this one function that you're doing. Getting someone from the outside to come in and look at those and say, you know what? Okay, I think we can automate these 10. Let's take this chunk out. Here's a script. Here's a query that we're going to do. And now this is a new documentation. So it's functionally rewriting processes in the business. Our approach personally was to not try to tackle that internally and try to bring in somebody from the outside, maybe internal, but from the external of the teams. They can look at it and look at it objectively instead of saying, well, this is my baby and I really like this because this one time 6 years ago, we had this one issue happen. Now we've rewritten the whole process, adapting it right now for how we're looking at it today. But and it's funny because everyone talks about the product side and the platform side, and it's sexy. It's fun. How do you build these agents to go out there and do things? But it's not the low hanging fruit. It's, how can you use a product like Superhuman to get someone through their inbox instead of 2 hours in a day, 20 minutes. That's the secret sauce right there. You don't have to offshore anymore. You can inshore and just use AI, boost productivity.
That's powerful. So two things I want to highlight. One is finding experts and bringing them in. instead of you becoming the expert, right? It's like
Right.
you're a super user of AI. It doesn't mean that you are or need to be the expert in
Right.
automate. What am I trying to say here? Automation and processes in that, right? But you can know and understand at a very high level to know the right person to bring in to help you guys do that.
Always.
And then you mentioned having your team use AI on their inbox. What was the name of the tech that you
So
super,
I haven't put it out to the team yet. I'm using it. It's called Superhuman.
super oh,
Highly recommend it as a way to I've got my focus days where I'm only working on 10x. I'm only focused on the big picture items I need to move through, but you can't ignore Slack. You can't ignore, the email. I've got to be on top of it. So what I needed to do was take away the hours that I spent in there getting through these things really quickly. And Superhuman's a great platform. There are several of them out there. There are just some Gmail type of filter tools that'll just move things. Like I don't need all of our ClickUp notifications all day long.
yeah,
They're just taking up time, or meeting invites that, things that I don't need to spend whole lot of time. Cause you know how it is. All of a sudden you look up and you've got your whole inbox of just unread by lunch. And you're like, it becomes kind of just
yeah,
sinks on you in the day. You're like, oh my God, I got to address all this stuff. And Superhuman's one of those tools that allows me to put it off till the end of the day. I carve out my 20 minutes and I run through it. And the goal is zero inbox. Before I had this tool, I did not have zero inbox. I'll tell you that. I used all the storage. So I used that Google search function as much as I possibly could. And I know I drop balls. The best thing about Superhuman is the remind. You can set it to remind you on certain things. So if I've sent something, Gmail's got a little bit of that built into it inherently, but it can set me to remind. So that's a productivity item for me, myself. Most of our team is working, especially on the production lines, non-client facing. They're working in ClickUp. They're working on our platform management all day. So really, it's more about how do we leverage that? I mean, the big questions that I have for the team are ClickUp has amazing AI built in. It's backed by OpenAI. I think there's a Claude functionality into it too. You could do amazing things. I mean, before client visits, I don't have to ask an account manager or an AE for background on the client. I go in there and literally say, give me a one pager and tell me everything about it. And I've got all of the information they would have spent hours researching at my fingertips. How can we leverage that for them? It's already sitting there. It's already there. We already pay for it. So it's not fair to tell the team, hey, go use this. It's just not. You can't expect them to utilize it on their own in the best way possible. You've got to give them the tools and uniform. So we're still in the process of looking at it, whittling it down, but we know we've got Gemini, we've got AI in our operating system. How can we best build our set of practices to use that and help carve 30-40% of people's time away so we can scale up and not scale up people?
love it, love it. I know your previous expertise was in RevOps, building, the revenue side of the companies. How is your sales team and your revenue team? How are they leveraging AI?
So we went ahead, what I consider to be best in industry for our size of a company's HubSpot.
Yep.
Big HubSpot believer. I love the platform. I think I know that there's some other ones out there that have come a long way, but HubSpot, once you built correctly, just executes. I love the way that they beta test. I'm not being paid by HubSpot, by the way. If they want to endorse us, that's cool. Or take the check. Their platforms they're always evolving. They take a true agile approach to their development. So they've got betas all the time for new tests, and sometimes they come and they go. They've just got a new note taker that's kind of come in. So the first thing we did was focus on top of funnel. We've got this massive database. Let's figure out how to get our email marketing engine going. We're hosting 2 webinars a month. How to's probably a little bit overkill. So we're kind of pivoting off of that a little bit. But, we started working on a lot of content. We do industry reports, report cards for the industry, different data pieces, start moving in that mechanism within HubSpot itself, landing pages. The sales mechanism is a little bit different. So we brought over our core team from the Workwave world, 3 individuals. And, in Workwave, we were part of a really big sales organization. Wasn't as micro focused. It wasn't as disciplined. It was really, that company was SaaS first, as it should have been. And we were just kind of an afterthought. So we've had to instill some new discipline in the team. We've had to go to, daily activity requirements just to get things going. We've just now got our first BDR set up into the organization. So it's still coming along. The most important thing that we did in the first really 90 days, 100 days is get our sales playbook together. Who are we targeting? What's our messaging? what's our expertise? What are our expectations? What's our PI, our PIP program or performance program look like? All of those little things that outline the organization itself to set a baseline of expectations. You need to go do this. I've got a saying with my teams, and I had this for years: in the absence of results, I want to see activities win. Show me your try. There's nothing worse than like, hey, I haven't hit my numbers in the past few months, and our leads suck, so I haven't done anything. I mean, you can't work with that. Chris, I don't think you can work with that. It's just not going to work. So really building that system of accountability and a system of structure. We got an incredible HubSpot user to come in. She has built an amazing framework for us. She's built out the cadences for our sales teams and our BDR. And we're just rocking and rolling now. I think the last time I looked, we went from essentially 0 marketing emails going out. I think we hit around 20K last month in different sequences and targeting. So, MQLs are starting to come up, which means SQLs are starting to come up, which means deals are building in the pipeline. We're always trying to grow toward that 3X every single month. We need 3X in our pipeline so we know what to close. 5X would be better.
Yeah.
3X will.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just building that sales discipline, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure we can have a whole podcast episode just about sales discipline, sales leadership, sales.
Happy to come back and talk about that too, anytime. Love it.
That would be cool. Yeah. I would love to have you and we can just like hyper focus on that. Getting ready to wrap up here, Jeff. If you had to give one piece of advice for agency owners that are looking to achieve the level of success that you guys have achieved here, what would it be?
I'm going to double down on where I've spent the past 10 years of my career. Pick a market. Don't try to be everything to everyone. If you're going to look at the very high level, figure out where you've been most successful, where you've got the most knowledge, one vertical market, and go 10X into that market. Learn the language of that market, become an expert. I never ran a janitorial company. I could tell you everything about it. I've never gone out and I've killed some, but I've never done it professionally for money. But I'm spending all of my time right now learning how these businesses operate, not just how they market, but how do they operate? Who are the people that run them? What's the psychology? One, it's fun. You get to specialize and really dig down. But two, when you become an industry expert, you can build a system for them that no one else can. You learn where to integrate your services into their platform to where the experience is twice as good as working with somebody who's independent and just off the street. And, we have competitors coming off at us all the time. The local person, they'll come in, someone goes to church with them and, hey, they've got this agency, so-and-so just graduated college, or there's a 2 or 3 person shop in town. And that's great. But I'm like, hey, do they have the best playbook? Like, I know your market, I know your CPL across 3 states, and I can compare it. Like we have the playbook. You can't get that if you try to generalize. It's very difficult when you try to generalize. And it's not good enough to say, well, I'm going to play in the enterprise space. So all big companies. You can do that sometimes if you're specializing in like data. I've got some friends that run a local agency here that work with big brands all over the country, and they're hyper data scientist focused. I wouldn't call them an agency anymore. They're really a data station, and that's okay. But in our market, they're not going to beat us in pest. They're just not. They're not going to beat us in green. Like we have a playbook where we know how to work with them, and we can go. And it's not. This is not unique. We have several competitors in both of these markets that solely focus on these markets. So we're not the first ones to think of this. From an agency perspective, if you can figure out what you have done well, where you've excelled, double down on it. Go after that, become better at that, become an expert in those markets, become expert in servicing those and people you like working with. And you will find very quickly that you're going to have more success doing that than trying to be everything to all.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can anyone who wants to chat, wants to chat green, who wants to chat agency, who wants to chat?
I tell you what, if you want to reach out to me directly, no problem. It's just jeff@coalmarch.com. You can check out our website, coalmarch.com. It is getting a revamp. It's the other thing about agencies. The cobbler's son has no shoes, right? Like our website's the last thing to get updated. So we're still working on that. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn. So happy to reach out. Jeff Davis. I'm not sure what my profile is, but you can find me under Coalmarch, Jeff Davis.
Awesome.
Be happy to talk to anybody. Chris, thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Got to do part 2.
It sounds great.